Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Josh, today's a really good morning. Uh, had a really good night last night. Felt pretty good to say the least.
Yeah, I was kind of pissed off because, like I told you, I was visiting more of the girlfriend's family yesterday, and we were at her grandparents' house, and it was like, what time was it? It must have been like like the game started at 8:15 Eastern, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it must have been 8 p.m. on the dot when I saw your FanDuel lineup posted, and I was like, you know what? I'm with family. I'll take this night off. We'll get back to playing Jared's content on Thursday, I guess. And clearly, it was the wrong night to take off because you absolutely smashed me.
Oh, I was hoping that wasn't gonna go that way. Anyway, sorry, dude. I'm sorry. What's going on, guys? Good morning. Wow, lots of subs in the chat early on. Rye guy, hockey fan, KB Pitt. What's up, dudes? 13 months for all of you. That's crazy. Yeah, last night was a good night to say the least. It was very pedestrian after the first half. The score was 10-3 Colts, and the game script basically flipped everything on its head when Jonathan Taylor had an 80-yard screen pass to the house. So, Josh, I know we didn't talk about Monday night at all during our conversations yesterday, and I didn't really say much to anybody about it really, but I was building game scripts around the fact that I thought that the Colts were going to be coming from behind since they were 7 point dogs. And that first play immediately turns everything on its head, and Jonathan Taylor's like 40 to 45% owned in single game contests. So at the first, I was like, you know what? It's a long game. We'll just wait and see how it goes. The halftime score definitely was not in our favor, although I will say that it was definitely sort of in our favor due to the game script that we had coming. And then Lamar Jackson and the Ravens pour on like, I don't know, 30 points in the second half, including two touchdowns and two 2 point conversions for Mark Andrews. Career night for him. He was by and away my favorite play on the slate in general. So that was pretty cool to see. Josh, you got 70 DraftKings points as the captain yesterday in my DraftKings lineup.
Holy crap. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I just want to say congratulations to everyone who has Mark Andrews on their fantasy teams, and a big I'm sorry to everyone who doesn't have
Yeah,
Mark Andrews on their fantasy teams, or anyone who was facing off against Mark Andrews last night and felt like, oh, I have this win in the bag, easy peasy, and then ended up getting beat. Luckily, I haven't gotten affected by any of those type of games yet this season, but that just means it's all going to come during the second half, right?
yeah, for real. So last night was probably the one of the, or maybe one of the only times this year that we're gonna have so many fantasy point swings in season long. That like Marquise Brown went off, Lamar Jackson scored 40 points, Mark Andrews scored 40 plus points, and then we had Jonathan Taylor who scored like 35, and it was just yeah, it was crazy. Even Carson Wentz threw for 400 yards yesterday. Combined yardage for passing, if you were to tell me that Lamar Jackson and Carson Wentz combined, excuse me, for almost over 850 yards passing, I would say that you're smoking bath salts because that literally is a 1% outcome. And I mean, like, I don't want to toot my own horn too much here, but like everything literally fell into place for a top 1% night. So that's not exactly where I thought it was going to go, but I can't say that I'm not happy with it.
Yeah, definitely. It was an interesting night. I will say I was just as surprised. But one thing, even though that we do realize now that, the Ravens did end up winning, one thing we do realize is that that defense is exactly what we talked about yesterday, Jared. It's not a great defense. If you're not,
Yeah,
if you're
right.
giving up 400 passing yards to Wentz, like, you don't have a very good defense. And I think it's going to be something you see throughout the year that this Ravens defense is going to struggle.
Yeah, several things from this game that are going to affect things as soon as this week. We'll start with the Colts first. The fact that they felt really comfortable rolling out Marlon Mack is definitely very shocking to me, especially with how well Jonathan Taylor was running the football, as well as being really active in the passing game too. Naeem Hines was really like basically non-existent last night, which is very surprising given the fact that that game was as close as it was. So for me, I think that Marlon Mack is a very interesting piece for a team like the New York Giants to pick up. A very interesting piece for maybe even the Kansas City Chiefs to take a stab at. So give me your thoughts on that, and I'll also just include that the secondary for the Colts right now is literally the reason that they lost last night. They were losing guys left and right. They lost three cornerbacks during the game, including one of their better safety players. So now, I mean, I don't know. They were already down bad in the first place. Now they're even worse, and they now have to go in and face a team on short rest and face the Texans on Sunday, Josh. So, can we say that Davis Mills has a chance to possibly go through the air here?
I think Davis Mills has a chance to go through the air, but I think more importantly, Brandon Cooks might end up being one of the better wide receiver plays on the week at this point. I mean, against this defense and against how bad this secondary is, I could easily see him having a 10 reception game for 100 plus yards and probably throwing a touchdown or two in there. So
Yep.
just shows that Cooks probably going to end up being a really good play against that Colts secondary.
Yeah, it's rough. And then any comments on the Marlon Mack situation? I feel like it's just strange that they. I understand that the organization likes this player. The organization thinks that he's a good player, and I do too. It's just the injury situation is always fluid in NFL, right? The next guy steps up, the next guy does well. Jonathan Taylor had a breakout season last year, and he's younger, has less miles on him. I'm sure that the team respects both of them individually, but when it comes time to say who the better running back is, you have to side with Taylor in this situation. Now, do you think that the Colts would listen to offers to send Mack to either the Chiefs or the Giants? I feel like they would send him, hopefully not to the same conference. So I think that the Giants are clear front runners in this situation.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that this was intentional, right? Like the
Oh,
Colts
certainly.
knew what they were doing with Marlon Mack yesterday. They heard the rumors, they saw the rumors that the teams were looking into those Baltimore pieces, and they were like, "Hey, why not us? Like, why can't we get? We already said Mack is going to be available for trade. Let's get Mack out of here." And so a better option than any of those Baltimore guys, in my opinion. Like Mack is the clear front runner as the best running back that you can trade for in the NFL at this moment. And I think the Colts are just trying to prove that to make sure that no one forgot about him last night. So I bet you see Mack traded within the next 2 weeks. And at the very least, we see him traded before the trade deadline.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In terms of sports betting last night, there's a few things that we need to discuss here. First, I think that as much as I love our sponsors, Bet Online, they got the. I believe that they got the Mark Andrews prop wrong yesterday. We talked about how the in my article, so I'll bring this back in front of the paywall for you guys if you're not NFL members. I talked about the fact that the Colts play a lot of zone defense, and it's in order to protect them against mobile quarterbacks such as Lamar Jackson. He was able to break free a few times just because he is an elite athlete, but they held him to a pretty modest. Like, I think he had like 50 rushing yards or something. So the whole idea behind all that is the way that they have their scheme and they build around stopping the quarterback that allows a guy like Mark Andrews, who normally does have a lot of time in the slot, to be able to kind of maneuver his way in between the linebackers and the secondary. And then as the secondary guys start to deplete, and as they start to lose more guys down the stretch and get more tired during the game, they're able to find separation in that little layer of 5 to 10 yards in between those two levels of the defense. And that worked out to our advantage very well. He was very, very low owned on FanDuel, and nobody played him at captain on DraftKings. So just another reason why you can sign up for the single game showdown package, because there are so many edges to be made in that regard. Everybody played Sammy Watkins, so I'm not going to take my victory lap around that play as he got hurt in the first half. So it is what it is there, but the research still stands behind Mark Andrews being the best play on that side of the ball. I will also say, to that regard, that we found an interesting stat last night that Lamar Jackson has more total yards than 18 different NFL teams. And those teams include the Carolina Panthers, the Denver Broncos, the Colts that they just played last night, the Green Bay Packers, the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the New Orleans Saints. So there's a lot more teams than that, but it's notable that he has more yards than literally all of those teams.
That's insane. When do we start talking about Lamar Jackson as the favorite for MVP? Because it feels like it might be right now.
Yeah, I think it's worth looking at here. So I will bring that up. I think Josh Allen, after not really proving it the first 3 weeks of the year, has kind of come in and started to be more of a focal point for that conversation. It's also really important to see that Kyler Murray is also in that conversation too. So I haven't pulled it up yet, but it's almost there, and I will let you know where we stand there. But I think that those three guys are going to be up at the top, as well as Tom Brady. I don't think we can forget about him necessarily. So let's see here. Brandon Staley, Coach of the Year. Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
I saw someone call him the best coach in the NFL on TikTok the other day, and I don't know if I can buy it. I'm sure he's a top 10 coach, but I don't know if I can buy best coach in the NFL.
All right, here we go. Josh Allen is the slight favorite here. None of these guys are minus money right now, so it's a good time to reassess things. And if you have a good read on a guy, then take that stab at it. Josh Allen plus 450. Tom Brady comes in at second at plus 525. Dak Prescott plus 550. Kyler Murray plus 650. And then
Wow.
both Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert come in at plus 700.
Lamar's the only quarterback in the league right now who has passed for 300 plus yards in every single game this season. Just a little tidbit for y'all.
That's impressive. The other guys down below him, there's three quarterbacks at plus 1200. Uh, Mahomes, Rodgers, Stafford, and then we have Derrick Henry as the first position player at plus 4000. So
Hmm.
very interesting there. Yeah, okay. I mean, if you have a stab at somebody you think that's going to win the MVP, I would take it now because there's still money to be made here, probably for the next couple of weeks, unless somebody really, really stands out and starts to separate themselves from the field. It's kind of hard to ignore what Josh Allen did on Sunday night, and obviously very hard to ignore what Tom Brady did. I don't know. Tom Brady's out for blood this season specifically. We don't really know why necessarily, but he is. All the stars are aligning for Brady, and they, continue to put up massive numbers. So I don't mind Brady plus 525 either.
Yeah, definitely. Brady's a good bet. I feel like I still like the Lamar bet a lot. I don't know if I'm willing to buy into Allen because they are using the run game a little bit more this season. So
Yeah,
it'll
they
be
are.
interesting to see. I just don't know if I'm willing to bet him as the favorite right now.
Yep, they are. So I think we're done with talking Monday Night Football here. The last thing that I will use as a transition piece here is the fact that it was brought to the country's attention at halftime that the Las Vegas Raiders had parted ways with John Gruden. Gruden, we won't get into it too much. I know there's some drama there surrounding that. Um, but I just kind of find it ironic that we kind of talked about him a lot during this show specifically over the first 5 weeks of the year. Josh, any first reaction for the firing of John Gruden?
I mean, it was coming, right? Like there had to be some type of repercussions for the emails that were leaked or the email that was leaked. And then last night, the New York Post or the New York Times, sorry, not the New York Post, let it be known that there were even more emails that were even worse off. So it was just a matter of time before he resigned. I felt like I didn't know what they were going to do about the first email, but after everything came to light, there's not much else that you can do with Gruden if with all those emails getting leaked, right?
Yeah, it's Mark Davis was put in a tough spot there. So
Really
the
tough spot.
yeah, so I mean, John Gruden's statement was very short and to the point. Maybe we'll hear more about this at a later date, but he says, "I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry I never meant to hurt anyone." So that is what was posted late last night during the game, a little bit after halftime. Like I said, Mark Davis put in a very, very tough spot there. It was the writing was on the wall. I'm surprised that it took as long as it did to come to fruition and actually make a decision there. But it is a big deal. I mean, it's firing your head coach of your football team and literally the leader or supposed to be the leader of the whole organization. So if you were to tell me that John Gruden got fired before Urban Meyer did, then I would say you're crazy. So the fact is, one of those guys has a job still, and the other doesn't. But Gruden it wasn't just a one-time thing, and that's the biggest thing that was brought up last night. For those of you who didn't watch the game or aren't into football as much, um, lots of stuff that dates back to him when he was working as a color analyst for Monday Night Football. Lots of stuff going back towards when he was the Raiders head coach for the first time in his career. Just something that probably was swept under the rug for a decade and a half and finally came to light here. We're living in a different time. The internet doesn't forget, so that kind of came back to bite him in the butt.
Yeah, I hate to take this off the topic that we're talking about, but Jeremy Fowler just said on I don't know whatever show he's talking on right now that the Chiefs are already looking into Marlon Mack. So
All right.
I don't know where our crystal ball is, Jared, but we need to give it to everyone else too.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking about that last night. I think there's only two real spots for Mac to go. It's the Giants. It's the Chiefs. I'm surprised that I'm sure that the Baltimore Ravens are going to make a high price tag for those guys, especially for the Chiefs. That they have like, they're not just going to hand the Chiefs a running back that they made an offer for like dirt money in the beginning of the season. So the Colts, maybe on the other hand, I mean, I don't know. The Chiefs have some pieces. I would probably hope that if I was the Chiefs, I would focus on getting some better defensive players. But that's just me, and I don't know. Mac's gonna fit in their system regardless, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this Gruden stuff, I don't want to cover it too much because literally everybody's driving it down everybody's throat this morning. So we'll just say that it's unfortunate, and this was clearly the right move for the Raiders, clearly the right move for humanity in general. So, um, it is what it is, and you just can't get away with stuff anymore. Like you never should have been able to get away with stuff like this, but times are clearly changing in the NFL for the better.
Yeah, clearly changing, and like you said, it just shows that like stuff like this doesn't matter if it's 10 years ago or how long ago it was. It'll most likely get uncovered with where we are at in just our society.
Exactly. So we'll end the football talk for today by saying that week five's in the books. It's crazy that it's been 5 weeks already. And week six kicks off on Thursday night with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's going to be an extremely fun game to watch. And yeah, primetime is not disappointed this year, Josh. That's the last thing I'll say about this.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't. I mean, like all year, there's only been a few games where it's been like, all right, this is a absolute blowout, or this game isn't any fun. But like most of these games have been down to the wire and been really fun to watch.
Yeah, shout outs to the NFL scheduling department for actually killing it this year. They've been a little bit shaky the past couple, especially like not last season as much, but like the year before and the previous years before that. Their Thursday night games were always the snoozers, and the Monday night games were like, eh. They've killed like every single matchup so far. Maybe it's just because the I don't know, just like no team has necessarily been devastated by injury outside of Houston. Um, in terms of like playoff or like terms of primetime game stuff. So every game has been close, and the ones that you don't expect to be close end up being the shootouts, like last night. Like if you were to tell me coming into last week, we talked about how the primetime schedule was amazing for week five, and if you were to tell me that the best game of the week was Monday Night Football, Colts Ravens, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have believed you at all. So, I mean, especially with the Bills Chiefs game on Sunday night, and then obviously we had a London game, and then obviously Thursday night was Seahawks and Rams. Like those are all super powerhouse matchups, and I just feel like it's always the one you least expect to go off that goes off.
Yeah, it always ends up being that game. It was that way at the beginning of the year with the Giants and the Washington football team too. Like
Yep.
that was a game where like no one
Yep.
expected it to be anything fun, and it ended up being one of the best games of the year at that point. So like it's just a lot of games are surprising us too, which is it's good to see.
Yeah, I'm the one thing that I am happy about still, even though like part of me wants this to come back, is the for those of you who haven't been playing fantasy very long, FanDuel and DraftKings used to put the Sunday night game as the last game on the main slate. So that would have changed the entire slate for me. I probably would have had a lot of Chiefs and Buffalo exposure. And yeah, we don't talk about that very much, but that would have changed the entire slate earlier this week.
Yeah, it would have. But do you really want that back? Like, do you really want to
No,
deal with
I don't.
waiting until the end of Sunday night to find out if we're winning or not? I
No, no, no.
hated that back in the day. It's the worst.
Well, sometimes like people always use that as the late night hammer, and now that NBA is coming back, we'll be able to use that term again. Um, but yeah, so everybody would target the Sunday night game, and no matter how bad it was, like people would still want to play it because they wanted a piece of the last game for whatever reason. That would have been one that you probably would have been overexposed to, and it probably wouldn't have worked out in your favor depending on which side you went. For me, I probably would have went with the Chiefs, so I'm kind of that's kind of a blessing in disguise for me. But I like right now, I like having the main slate out of the way, and I'm able since we're doing single game showdown for the packages, we're able to exploit that single game strategy and not have to worry about it and sweat for like I don't know. We already sweated for like 15 hours on Sunday, so I didn't really want to feel like I had to sweat out anymore. I just won on one slate. But yeah, let's move
Yeah.
on. Actually, we have one more thing. I don't know why I forgot about this, but if we're talking NFL, we might as well end that talk with Jason Garrett Tuesday, right? Because a lot of stuff happened in the Giants camp this weekend, and we haven't touched on it yet.
No, we haven't touched on it. It was honestly like I don't know if I can necessarily say it was a bad Jason Garrett Sunday for him, but like wasn't the best Jason Garrett Sunday, I guess. What are your thoughts on Jason Garrett from this week?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of tough to give him poor regard because he lost all of his players. So Daniel Jones concussion knocked him out of the game early. We also got the news that Saquon Barkley's ankle, again, don't watch the video if you're squeamish on that stuff. His ankle is the size of a balloon. And we also got injuries from Kenny Galladay after Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are already out for this team. Evan Ingram can never stay healthy either. So literally the only bright spots at the offensive positions uh, is just one guy, and that's Kadarius Toney. Go figure, all right, Josh?
Go figure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been on the Kadarius Toney train for such a long time. I knew he could be this level of prospect when it came to the NFL, and I'm happy to see him finally featured. I just hope he continues to be featured even after he threw that punch in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, yeah. That's not something that's going to show up in the stat line. I wish that they would allow that to just be in there just for this game. But yeah, that's basically how the Giants game went. I kind of thought it would be a little bit closer, just given the nature of these two teams. They always seem to play to each other's level whenever they play, no matter how good each team is. So uh, I'm not surprised that it went that way necessarily, but you know, when you have all of your guys injured and Mike Glennon as your backup, even though I do respect Glennon enough, but the tides had clearly turned. They were already down bad at that point, and yeah, we'll see. Again, nothing really that bad to say about Jason Garrett. Literally everything bad to say about the fact that they're going to lose a bunch of starters, and now they have to go in and face a Rams team that's going to absolutely murder them on the defensive end.
Yeah, that's not going to be pretty for Mike Glennon if he does start, and if Daniel Jones starts, then it'll be even worse for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, again, like we said yesterday, I feel like this would be a topic of conversation for Jason Garrett Tuesday next week if they allow Daniel Jones to go out there and play against Aaron Donald. Uh, it would be an absolute slaughter fest, and that would be the second quarterback that he would take out of a game 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that would be pretty tragic if that ends up happening when he starts next week and absolutely gets obliterated.
All right, let's. I think we've talked about football enough. Very, very good week 5 for RotoRadar NFL members. Good week in general for NFL watchers. That was probably the most exciting full week of football that we've had so far this year. Would you say?
Yeah, I feel like it was. It was definitely a really good week of football. I can't think of any week that compared to it. So, very entertaining week of football, and excited to see what this next. And I know it won't be as exciting because we have so many teams on bye this week. I think we have a total of
Yeah.
6 teams on bye, but
Yep.
still will be interesting to see what happens with everything unfolding this week.
For sure. Okay, let's move on here and talk about some playoff baseball. A lot of stuff happened yesterday. We had all 4 games. Well, sorry, not all 4 games, but all 3 games that played. The Houston and Chicago game got delayed and postponed due to weather to today. Let's talk about the games that actually played out. We do have one team advancing, one team got eliminated. That team that was eliminated was the Tampa Bay Rays. Red Sox had some late game magic, a walk off again to send them to the ALCS. Thoughts on this? We were talking about this pre-show. I give all the credit in the world to the Red Sox. They stuck it out. They were the underdogs here. But it just feels like there's still a little bit of a hesitancy and sort of like a little bit of an asterisk. Again, that like I don't want to try to blow that play up that happened 2 days ago too much here, but that's what we're going to look back on in terms of where everything switched and the momentum shifted.
That's what everything is going to look back on. Like if this Red Sox team does get further, if they face off against the White Sox or the Astros and they end up winning the ALCS, then even in the World Series, it's what we're going to look back on. Is this Red Sox team? I'm not again. Like I want to give them all the credit in the world. Really don't want to seem like I'm trying to take away credit. But at the end of the day, it's not their fault. It's a stupid ruling by the MLB that just it doesn't make much sense. So like I don't know. It's just it feels weird. It was a great win last night. There was definitely no
Yeah,
asterisk on last night's win. Went
right.
up 5-0 against Shane McClanahan. I don't know what Cash was thinking by taking out McHugh and putting in McClanahan because McHugh was dealing at that point, and I think Cash just starts. It felt like Blake Snell all over again. Like Cash just overthinks things when he's trying to decide on which pitcher he's going to bring out there. And this was just, I think it was a big error because we saw McClanahan get absolutely shelled, give up those 5 runs. Then we saw the Rays come back, and then we saw the walk-off in the ninth from that Red Sox team. It was a really good win by the Red Sox, but I still think that the play yesterday, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, with that ball hitting off of Renfroe's leg, it's just going to be something that is always remembered for this Red Sox team for this playoff run.
Yeah, Cash, like you said, making some questionable decisions yet again. He's a numbers guy. They're a numbers organization. Same thing happened to the Brewers in a similar fashion, where we'll talk about that. But I just wanted to state that some of these more analytically driven decisions sometimes aren't always the best in baseball. Most of the time, it's going to pan out over the course of a 162 game season, but when it comes to the playoffs and you're going by the numbers, sometimes it's going to blow up in your face. And it's just unfortunately done that to the Rays 2 years in a row. So we'll move on. Congratulations to the Boston Red Sox. They should have their hands full with whoever comes through, whether it be the White Sox or the Houston Astros. Let's talk about the Brewers and Braves next. The Brewers, just this series in general, has been the lowest scoring series out of any of them so far. Brewers don't fail to score a run here. The Braves getting all 3 runs in the fifth inning. I say that they made a decision just like the Tampa Bay manager did because Craig Counsell decided that he wanted to take out Freddie Peralta after 4 scoreless innings. Peralta had 5 strikeouts and only allowed 3 hits to that point. They put in Adrian Hauser, who is a ground ball master and machine, but unfortunately blows up in his face. He wasn't able to find the strike zone, allowed 2 quick hits, and then after just a really, really short mound visit, they give up a 3 run bomb to Jock Peterson, who's come up big now for the third time as a pinch hitter in this series. So that game happened while we were on the NFL stream, Josh. So I'm not sure if you saw the Jock Homer, but it just proves again that some of these mathematical, analytical decisions by these managers are just blowing up in their faces.
Yeah, and it's just super confused. I think this move is even more confusing than the McHugh move because at least with McHugh, the guy was like he's not really a starter anymore. So like it's kind of understandable that you go to McClanahan to hopefully pick up some bulk innings, but you're like Peralta's a starter and a guy that can go deep into the game. I don't know if it was a pitch count issue. It
No,
wasn't a pitch count
no,
issue.
he had 50
Peralta was at
pitches.
57. Yeah,
Yeah.
57 pitches. I'm looking at it right now. It just seems like a silly move to try to put Hauser in there. I don't understand why. Like, especially because you knew that Hauser was going to have to go up against a lefty and Jock, and Hauser's not very good against lefties. So, like, I don't know. It's a confusing spot. I don't really understand it, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this series plays out. There's been a total of 9 runs scored in a 3-game series between these two teams. It's been pitchers duels throughout, and you're going to see probably another pitchers duel today as they face off again. You guys still don't know who your pitcher is, but we do know that Charlie Morton's going to be on the mound for Atlanta to hopefully close this, or well, hopefully for them to close this thing out.
Yeah, Morton's going to come off of like less than a couple days rest. The starter right now that we are looking at, which I don't think it's finally yet, is Eric Lauer. So we'll see if that's actually the guy that
Oof.
they roll out, which is not solid for me and my picks here. Um, the reason that there's one reason that Council would have made this move, and it's because of the lack of run support that this Brewers team has had coming into this series. The only runs that they've scored really are that from that 2-run home run from Rowdy Tellez, which kind of was not going to say fluky, but Morton was definitely gassed at that point, and that they should have just taken him out of the game there. But the move that was made for Freddie Peralta was more of a we need to score runs here and take advantage of this situation because they were up, or they had two guys on with no outs. Freddie Peralta was due up, and they had already gone through. That was at the top of the fifth inning. So if they were going to score runs, they figured they would do it in that spot. Three great defensive plays by the Braves completely took that out of the game. So at that moment, the Braves definitely had the chess move in place where they would, substitute their pitcher at that time when it came up to the plate. They put in Jock, and I just knew that was going to be over as soon as that happened because Jock Peterson hasn't started now in 3 games, and he's gone 3 for 3 with 2 home runs. So obviously, whatever's happening there is working for him. Left-handed batters are in paradise at Truist, so that's just one thing that I can't say anything bad about. The Braves pitching has been fantastic, and they've come up and been the more clutch team. So we'll see if they can get the job done today behind Charlie Morton. He should be lights out again. Is there any concern about short rest for Morton, or do you think that he's just ready to do this in the playoffs?
I think at this point in the season, when you're that much of a veteran, it doesn't really matter at this
That's
point. You don't
yeah,
care about the short rest, and you
yeah.
just go out there and toss. And I think that's exactly what Charlie's going to do.
I agree. It's going to be a really, really rough sledding game for the Brewers. We'll see if they can edge it out here and tie this game up back at 2, send it back to Milwaukee for Game 5. But it's honestly, I would not be picking this team for my underdog mentality right now. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. What's up, Friars? What's up, Ray? Good morning. It's a great day in Red Sox Nation. It is. It certainly is. Congratulations. One more game, or we'll talk about both games here. Giants came out and won 1-0 last night. The one home run against Max Scherzer did him in. San Francisco pitching elite once again. I can't say enough good things about this pitching staff. So, what are we talking about here? We have one game more in LA. Do you think that the Giants can take this one?
I think the Giants can take this one. I mean, it's all going to be dependent on who the Dodgers are going to roll out today. I know that there's some rumors about who it could be, but currently no one confirmed for that spot yet. I guess with this game that we had last night, it's just the fact that finally Scherzer giving up that one home run that he does every game
Yep.
kind of did him in here. And,
Yep.
we always talk about it. He's going to allow a home run to someone. It's just who will the home run be against? And they gave up that home run, and the Giants were lights out. Wood was lights out for 4.2, and then they brought in that bullpen, and that bullpen's been so great this year. Trevor Rogers looked amazing for the 1.2 innings he was in there, and then Doval just completely shut them down in the 8th and the ninth. So, like, this Giants team looks good, man. They look like they could close it out today.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm going to be celebrating if the Dodgers get eliminated, no matter what. So I'm pretty pumped about that. There is no line currently up on BetOnline.ag just because we don't know the pitching matchups just yet. I'm sure that'll be updated a little bit later this afternoon. Finally, this is expected to be the closest game on today's card. Houston Astros going up against Chicago White Sox. We know that this game got postponed yesterday. They're going to play it today. And we have Mccullers versus Rodon. Talked about the matchup on yesterday's stream. The Bet Online has made this thing almost a pick 'em, Josh. So who are we leaning with here? You want to go Mccullers? You want to go Rodon? You want to stick with your call yesterday?
I think that wait, so do we know McCullers is going to start this game? Is that yeah, McCullers is going to. So like that's where this weather situation really played out well for this Astros team because
Yeah.
the Astros were going to have to pitch Urquidy just because McCullers they were going to save McCullers for Game 5, but like now they don't have to. I want to stick with Rendon just because I really want the Astros to lose, but I don't know. McCullers was an ace when he pitched in the last game, went 6.2 innings, didn't give up a run, only allowed 4 hits. I would be surprised if he wasn't an ace once again against this White Sox team. So I feel like I have to slightly lean with the Astros, but I really hope the White Sox end up winning this one for my sake. That way, so Sean isn't cheering them on throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, going to be a very close game. I think that the most underlying thing is what you pointed out, like the postponement. Yesterday was probably the best case scenario for the Astros, in my opinion, in terms of just letting the White Sox sit and just like slowly watch their demise come in. Like I know that they're not viewing it that way,
Yeah.
but they're it's a long time to wait, right? So I mean, like I didn't really play anything past the high school level in terms of baseball, but having a game delayed or even just a postponement like totally sucks the life out of you. So you have to find the way to gear up, especially in a playoff scenario, right? So I'm interested to see like Houston is easily the more uh, decorated team when it comes to just playoff experience. So I'm sure that they will have the clear upper hand here. The only do we even have any White Sox guys that have some like relative playoff experience?
Um, I don't think so. Hold on, let me look at this lineup really quickly. I'm trying to get it to load for me. No, not well. Grandal does for sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe Cesar Hernandez has a little bit when the Indians used to go on runs, but outside of that, basically everyone else is a newbie to the playoffs.
Was was Jose Abreu a rookie on that White Sox World Series team? Trying to see
He
if
might have been.
yeah. I mean
I
that
don't.
was a
I
long
honestly.
time ago, so I don't know. Maybe he
Yeah,
was.
I have no clue.
Chad, if you can help us out, that'd be cool. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and
No,
I no.
he was not.
Okay. Anyway, uh, long story short, the Houston Astros are the more decorated team when it comes to playoff experience. So I'm going to side with that right now, and I have them
Yeah,
going to face the Red Sox in the ALCS. So very interesting to see how that's going to play out later, and we'll talk about that come tomorrow's show or maybe Thursday's show. So the last thing I want to talk about for baseball, and this is definitely something that like just came up in the last 2 to 3 days here, and this is not going to affect anything moving forward yet from our knowledge, but there's a chance that it could. Uh, the MLB is testing ways to fix baseball's, in quotations, boredom problem. So obviously the league is testing things out, and they're doing it in a weird fashion, but the Independent Atlantic League is basically being a lab rat for changes that could speed up games and add more drama to the game of baseball. This is probably going to take a couple of seasons to figure out, but Josh, they're talking about doing a couple things, including robot umps for home plate, possibly larger bases, letting batters steal first base. Some other changes include lowering the amount of time and amount of times that pitcher or pitching coaches can go out to mound visits. What do you think about all this, and what's the most likely change that you're going to see for the major league level?
it blows my mind that we get like that we talk about this. It feels like every year we talk about something in this regard to making things different in the MLB. Whereas like you don't hear anyone really talk about like moving the NBA 3 point line back, or you don't and talking about you don't hear anyone talk about making the NFL making an NFL field 110 yards instead of 100 yards. Like you never hear this for any other sport, and yet we always get this stuff for MLB. It blows my mind every year when we hear this stuff for MLB. I feel like if there was one thing that they talk about here that could actually happen, though, it's definitely robot umps, right? Like robot umps have to happen. It's sad because I won't have any more umpire data to look at every day, but I feel like it's the change that makes the most sense.
It would certainly take away a lot of variance, that's for sure. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I'm interested to just see how that would look from an aesthetic standpoint. Does that throw pitchers off? Like that's where my head goes at first
I don't know if it's. I have no clue.
because
Like I don't.
they're used to seeing three bodies there and they're only going to see two.
I will also say like it takes away part of the catcher's job because like
Yeah,
there's
that's
no
true.
more framing of a pitch.
That's
Like
true.
you get the pitch and you can't frame it. It's a robot. Like there's no way to frame it for the robot. So I don't know. It's super interesting to think about. But I feel like it's the best move out of all of these. Some of these moves are kind of wacky, like moving the mound back a little bit. Like it would just end up being. Oh, you thought this year was a home run fest at one point? No, that would be an absolute home run fest. You would see. I bet you would potentially see double digit games, double digit scores every single day of the MLB season.
Yeah, so to that point, I'm going to bring up something that was brought in that article. It said that the MLB stated that its research showed that the additional foot, moving the mound back an additional foot, would not significantly alter pitchers' mechanics, but it would give hitters a fraction more time to react, enough to make a 93 to 94 mile an hour fastball seem like a 90 to 91 mile an hour fastball. And for those of you who don't know the significance of that change, that's like a lifetime of extra time, and that's the reason that like elite pitchers or above average pitchers move into gas can type territory. So to Josh's point, we would see runs skyrocket, which again would make baseball less boring in quotations there, but at the same time, I feel like that's taking it a little bit too far.
I would also say that like half the problem that people bring up with baseball right now is the fact that it takes so long. And if that was the case and you had more hitters, the game would only take longer. Like, and
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It'd be really interesting to see what, like, how the. I'm excited to see the results from this league to see like what it looks like. Is it going to be double digit scores every day? How do the pitchers adjust to not having an umpire behind home plate? Just a lot of things that'll be interesting to keep an eye out for.
yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on from baseball. Let's talk about Josh's wheelhouse because we got some big UFC news yesterday. Josh, UFC 269. Masvidal Edwards added to the already stacked card. First thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is that the already stacked card is an absolute understatement. If you get a chance, Jared, go look up UFC 269, and maybe it won't hit you as hard as it hit me when I saw the actual card, all like almost official with every fight that they're going to have. But some of the fights they have are absolutely insane. Like, first off, hold on, let me pull this
Yeah,
up. I just
there's
want to make
only
sure not to mess up.
yeah, there's
Go
only
ahead.
four. There's only four up right now, so I'll go with those four, which honestly are the bigger ones to go with. So if you have anything to add, you can. Um, Actually, this is definitely only three of them because can we get confirmed that Moreno and Figueiredo is UFC 270 or is it 269?
Yes, it is 270 because they
Okay.
pushed it back.
Okay. So
Um,
that has not been updated yet on BetOnline's website. So there are three that are currently on here.
okay, well, there's more that are confirmed. Let me just try to find. I'm trying. There's nowhere on the internet that had it. I'm trying to find a way to pull it up and give you guys a good idea of what's happening with UFC 269. But it's absolutely insane the card we have for UFC 269. Um, how is this so hard to find? I just saw this earlier this morning. Like the whole card is insane. Um, keep talking, Jared. I'm trying to find it, and when I find it, I'll let you know.
It's all good. Obviously, UFC 269 coming up here on Saturday, December 11th, which I'm interested to see who they actually headline this card with, because Amanda Nunez is on the card as well, and that is worthy of a main event. We're going to have several title fights and title defenders on this card. Amanda Nunez will take on Juliana Pena. We also know that now Brandon Moreno will be taking on Davison Figueiredo, and now, yeah, I mean, like that enough is enough to sell me. So that's kind of where I
Oh,
sit with that.
Just wait. I finally found it. So Nunez and Pena isn't even the main event. The main
Okay.
event is Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier.
All right.
Amazing fight. The fight that you needed to schedule for a while now, and we expected it before the end of 2021. So really happy to see that one on the card. Then you have Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt. That's an amazing flyweight fight. You have Pedro Munoz versus Dominic Cruz, another amazing fight. Then you have Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal, fight you were just talking about that got confirmed here, an amazing fight. Then going down the card, you have Sean O'Malley and Raleigh Pava. Everyone loves the Sean O'Malley fight, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then we just got Jeff Neal and Santiago Ponzinibbio. So like this card is absolutely loaded up and down. Like it's an amazing card. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm super excited for it. Can't get here soon enough. We have December 11th as the day that it's going to happen.
Yep.
I hope it doesn't get eviscerated like last year's December card. Last year's December card got absolutely torn apart. Everyone got sick. Everyone got injured. We ended up having to have that Brandon Moreno and Devison Figueiredo fight on that December card. But if this card stays intact, it is most definitely going to be the best card of the year for the UFC.
Yeah, if you need to ask off in advance and you work on the weekends, you should be taking off the entire weekend for this if you have a job that requires you to work on the weekends. So, just a heads
Yeah.
up, that is exactly what you should be doing. Call off on the 11th and the 12th right now.
For sure. And that fight for Brandon Moreno and Devison Figueiredo, they announced that they're trying their best to make it happen in Anaheim. That way, so Moreno can be closer to his Mexican fan base, which I think is really cool of the UFC to do that. That's why they moved it from 269 to 270 because they wanted to find a way to get it into Anaheim. And if they end up getting it into Anaheim and having a full crowd cheering on Moreno, it is going to be absolutely insane. It's just another title fight that I can't wait for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't even stop there. John just said we're supposed to get a January card that has Whitaker versus Adesanya and Gane versus Ngannou. So that'll be
Yeah, that sounds about. It's just a crazy time in the UFC. I mean, there is no better time than right now for just fighting sport, combat sports in general, right? Like boxing feels like it's at its peak right now. UFC is most definitely at its peak right now. It's absolutely amazing to be able to watch these fights play out, and we just have a ton of. And that's not even the end of it. Like we've talked about it, Jared. The November fights that we have when we're both in Kansas City
yeah.
are insane. Like it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these fights play out and to see who ends up winning on what fight.
Absolutely. Speaking of fights and throwing punches, we have some Ben Simmons updates for you guys in Philly. He did arrive at the Philadelphia 76ers facility, took a COVID test last night. Looks like more and more that they're going to try to attempt to put him in training camp. So, over under on how many times he gets in a fight with somebody in the practice facility.
Over by a lot. Whatever number you give me, I'd probably take the over there.
Yeah.
It's such bad chemistry, man. Like I can't imagine this is a situation where it's going to be like, oh yeah, water's under the bridge. We're all good, Ben Simmons. No, it's going to be a bad situation. But the reason they need to do this is I think they need to have Ben Simmons play a little bit before they end up throwing him or trading him away. I think they need to heighten that value a little bit. That's what they realized, and they were. I'm sure that's why Ben Simmons is back in Philly, is because he realizes that he probably needs his value heightened for them to trade him. So I'm sure he's going to play a few games. You still need to see him after last year's playoff performance because I feel like the playoff performance wasn't that great. So he needs to prove himself a little bit. I still think he ends up getting traded, even though he's technically reuniting with the team right now. Don't be surprised to see him traded before the trade deadline this year in the NBA.
Yep. So I'm going to read a quote from Joel Embiid from yesterday about what would happen if Ben Simmons returned and what his reaction would be, and then we will talk about the Nets and kind of finish this stream off today. Uh, Joel Embiid says, "I personally haven't talked to him since the season ended. Obviously, I tried, but I wasn't as successful as a lot of my teammates have been. Like I said, it's unfortunate the whole situation happened, but like I said, we're a better team with him on the floor. I think there's going to be some adjustments, but it doesn't need to be awkward. We're all professionals. We want to win. I want to win. he gives me the best chance to win, so that's what I'm going to go with. But as far as coming back and all that, we've made a few adjustments, and you got to buy in, and we're going to be fine. Last year we got the number one seed, so like I said, you have to buy in, and we're going to be fine. So that's probably the most vanilla Joel Embiid quote that we're going to get this year, and I can't wait to see the drama that's going to ensue.
Can't wait to see the boos that are going to ensue night one. Like, I don't know if they're playing at home in night one for this Phillies
Oh,
team, but if
I
they
will look.
are, for this Phillies team, for this 76ers team, but if they are playing at home, like, the boos are going to be crazy for this guy.
They opened the season on the road against Detroit and New Orleans. Their
Okay.
first home game, which is a perfect segue, is October 22nd, a Friday night against the Brooklyn Nets.
Look at that. It's almost like we meant to make it happen, except we didn't mean to make it happen.
Yeah, talking about the Brooklyn Nets, basically reports are coming in that and you can read the actual quote, but it looks like the Brooklyn Nets are going to be forced to make packages to trade Kyrie Irving because he's not going to be eligible to play in Brooklyn.
Yeah, hold on. Let me find this quote because I accidentally put it away when we stopped talking about it. Nets GM Sean Marks announced that Kyrie Irving will not play or practice with the team until he is eligible to be a full participant. So they're either going to put trade packages together or he's just going to sit and eat up their salary cap. Which, as a Lakers fan, I'm loving all of it, and I know as a Bucks fan, you're probably loving it too.
Yeah, we just talked about the fact that you should be smashing the conference winners or finals matchups of Lakers Bucks, or just honestly anybody that's not the Sixers or the Nets. So you can't really go wrong with either of those two teams. Yeah, any final comments on the NBA season? It actually returns in exactly 7 days, so you guys are going to see a lot more NBA talk from us. Also, the NHL season starts tonight as well. It's a little bit of a tiny 2 game slate, but we'll be talking about the NHL season as it unfolds as well. You can sign up for both of those packages, both Hockey Mike's package and our NBA package on the website right now at rotoradar.net. If you have any questions, you can feel free to DM Josh or I on Twitter or Discord, and we'll get you hooked up there. Any final comments for the NBA season now that it's exactly 1 week away?
No, just that I'm pumped up and I'm ready to go, and I know Sean's ready to go, and I know you're ready to go, Jared. I know everyone at the Roto Radar team is excited to provide the best content in the industry for the NBA season. So make sure to sign up if you have not already.
Yep. Next segment here, we're going to try to wrap things up quickly as we have about 6 minutes left of the show. It's Flag on the Play. I'll make it really simple. There's a lot of things we can talk about for Flag on the Play. Whether you want to go with John Gruden or whether you want to go with Kyrie Irving, whether you want to go with Ben Simmons, there's a lot of drama to be had. If you want to go with robot umps, that also works too. Finally, the last thing I'll say that's relative to football that actually was a flag on the play is I'm very, very surprised that Nyheim Hines wasn't used much in the passing game, especially when they were going to an overtime game and they actually I don't know, just it's very, very strange. The Colts running back situation always is.
Yeah, you're talking to the guy who has Naeem Hines as his RB2 in
So do
his
I.
high stakes league. So
Yeah.
I'm sweating a little bit, man. I need more Hines usage. Luckily, this week Antonio Brown decided to go beast mode and save my lineup, so it didn't really matter regardless. But I need Hines to do some things, so I'm gonna have to start looking for another running back possibly.
Yeah, another flag on the play topic is my fantasy teams this year. That's exactly what everything has gone
Oof.
wrong for me. Calvin Ridley didn't make the trip to London, and that forced me to play Elijah Moore, who got me a 0. And then Nyam Hines got me a 1.8 last night, so I'm hurting bad on that front. Tyreek Hill, another bad game. Darren Waller, bad game. And yeah, it was a fun time all the way around for Jared's fantasy teams.
Yeah, I definitely haven't been as bad off as you have, but these last 2 weeks, I think this week I actually had a winning week. I went 5-4, but I know I told you last week I ended up losing like almost every single league. So gonna see if we can turn it around for the two. No, I don't even know how much for all the rest of the weeks this season.
It's almost time for me to start tanking. That's we're getting to that point soon.
Oh no,
In
it's tanking
Dynasty,
time for Jared.
it's
Yeah,
close.
I already have one team that's tanking, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a couple more come the end of the season.
Okay, let's move on from this conversation and bring up the last topic of conversation today. It is going to be Underdog Mentality. Again, this stream is brought to you by betonline.ag, our trusted partner for the 2021 NFL season. I will just highlight things and say that we totally smashed the Mark Andrews prop last night. Got him to score, Mark Andrews to score a touchdown last night. Josh was plus 129, and to score two touchdowns was plus 320, and I hit both of them, as well as
Juicy.
the receiving yards prop of over 55, which I think that the final tally was like 130 or something like that.
My goodness.
So yeah, totally smashed on the Mark Andrews props. And yeah, that was a really good way to end week 5. Goosey said it's time for Jared to declare bankruptcy. Yeah, that's my that's my sleeper username. So all of my sleeper leagues are declaring bankruptcy, but my Bet Online account certainly is not.
Yeah, it certainly is not. If I had to go with an underdog mentality play today, I think they're still underdogs. I'm not 100% sure because I don't have BOL in front of me, but if the Astros are underdogs today, bet on them.
Yeah,
I feel like the Astros are going to end up winning this game.
yeah, they are actually. It might creep up to the point where it's not anymore, but right now you can get them at minus 103. It actually moved to minus 104 during our show today. So there might be a point where that swings in McCullers' direction, but right now they're technically the underdog. I have to be a homer here. I know I said I wasn't going to do this earlier, but honestly, it's the only dog play that makes sense for me because I don't want to play the Dodgers dog. I don't believe in that. So give me Milwaukee Brewers plus 141 behind Eric Lauer, the dude that uh, consistently finds a way to prove people wrong in every single game that he plays in.
Including me and Sean. He constantly proves us wrong, no matter what. So if anyone can do it, if anyone control our control.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Brewers money line honestly is where it is. I figured Morton would be closer to minus 200 favorites. So this is definitely interesting. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a fun day of baseball. It's going to be a fun day of hockey as well. Again, 2 games tonight. We get to see the debut of the Seattle Kraken as they take on the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'm pumped for that. I don't have a hockey team, so I kind of have to root for. Right now, like I'm a Flyers fan, but this could be a new team for me to root in Seattle.
Yeah, can we both just become Seattle Kraken fans?
We
Like,
can
can
make
we
it
just
a
both?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I should be a Predators fan because the Predators are actually a pretty good team, but I don't have a team currently. I feel like we should just both jump on the Seattle bandwagon and just call it a day.
yeah. We could make it a Seattle Kraken show, Seattle Kraken stream. I'm sure the
There you go.
chat
Now we
would.
have to get merch. We have to get merch every day we talk about the NHL, and we have to
That's
wear it.
true. That's a good point. That's a good point. All right, cool. I think we just made that decision. Hopefully the chat doesn't hate us for that. If you, I don't think we have any Seattle people in here, to be honest with you. I don't even know if we have any Seattle members. I can't even remember the last time I know there's a couple, but like they don't live in Seattle. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And honestly, I don't know a single thing about that team. I just think that their logo looks cool. So that's me being,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. That's all you need, man. Just
yeah.
looks cool is the only thing you need to be a fan.
Yes, sir. All right, we're gonna get out of here, guys. Thanks for tuning in this morning. We'll catch you here in about an hour for the strong side streams. The morning after stream, we're gonna try to do our best here. I think we're going to permanently move the time to 11 o'clock Eastern so that everybody from the West Coast to the East Coast can watch in the morning. And I think we're gonna, like I said, we'll keep you updated on it, but we're trying to be consistent with the time frame. And we believe that the best time to do this show at is at 11 Eastern. So hopefully you can mark that in your calendars. Tune in every morning, and we appreciate all you. We'll see you back here in an hour. As always, good morning and good skill.